Hi there, and welcome to today's episode of Talking to Introverts. I'm Denise Oliver, and today I thought I'd start by introducing another aspect of what I do, not just being a part of this podcast with Sami Blackford, who will also introduce herself. I am a resilience coach, and I specialise in grief and loss, particularly anything to do with women who are introverts and don't quite know where they fit in the world anymore, depending on the type of loss they've experienced, whether that's loss of a person, loss of a beloved pet, or something to do with an incident in life that's equaled loss of confidence, loss of confidence in themselves and who they are. So that's my absolute passion and purpose in life, as well as bringing you this podcast, Talking to Introverts. So I've already mentioned her name, Sami Blackford. All right, contestant number one, tell us where you're from. What do you do?
Hello, everybody. My name is Sami, and to anybody who hasn't met us before, this is why we thought we'd do this. I think we introduced ourselves in the first episode and then didn't, not thinking that not everybody has been on the journey with us since episode number one. So I am a brand and marketing coach. So I, in a nutshell, help, again, introverted women. Can you see why we created this podcast? Introverted women in business to stand out online without burning out. So if you think of the common marketing advice when it comes to running an online business, social media, post every day. I saw somebody give advice the other day where you post like 10 times a day. I'm like, I do not have time for that. So all of that stuff can really be overwhelming and exhausting for us introverts. Take it from one who's been there, tried that. I know, got the t-shirt, all of that kind of stuff. And there are simpler, more easeful, gentler ways to stand out in the online marketplace without all of that stuff. So that's what I help women to do. And like you were saying about your work, I absolutely love my work because I like organizing things. I've got that brain that just puts things into step-by-step processes. And I like pretty things. So I like designing websites and marketing materials and all of that kind of stuff.
You really do. And it is like you have found your niche that you wish to share with other women, don't you?
Yes.
Same as I have. Purpose, niche, whatever word you want to use for it, really. Your why in the world. There's many ways of describing what it is that you discover that you're good at and then share with others. So we have a topic for today. So shall we get down with that topic? Shall we do it?
I think it actually follows on quite well from what I was just saying about running an online business.
I think it does.
So today we're talking about working environments. Denise, how many working environments have you worked in your life?
Word. Many. Hospitals. I've worked on the district. I loved working on the district because I went in as a nursing sister into someone's home. So it was much more that one-to-one or perhaps 1 to 2 or 3 people, depending on what I was going in to do, whether it was care of the dying, dressings. And there was a lot more because it was much more of an intimate setting in the sense of I never assumed I could just walk in. I was invited into someone's home. So there was this respect for that space. In the hospital setting, doctors and nurses very much have the upper hand. But in someone's home, it's their home. And trust me, I've been in some very neglected environments out in the community. I've been in some incredibly lush, stately homes as a district nurse. It's how the other half lives is incredible. And yet when it comes down to it, people are people and require your assistance. And that's the be all and end all of it. They are either lovely or they're not. And it doesn't matter what they've got in life. They're either really gorgeous and you could wrap them up and take them home, or you could, you never want to see them again because they're just not nice people. And it doesn't matter which end of the social spectrum they're from. So as a nurse, I've seen all sorts of environments, clinic settings, wards. I was the same, people's home as a district nurse. And I think sometimes I do wonder whether I did, because I never understood myself as an introvert. I never quite found my absolute space to work in, because I could have probably done better in an environment like an intensive care unit, which is very much a one-on-one, looking after one patient with lots to do, individually, or possibly in theatre, where there's a team, but when you're operating, everyone knows their place in that team. And some teams are noisier than others. I know that, some of them would play music and things like that. But it was a smaller, more intimate environment again. District suited me because I got to spend time on my own in my car, where, you had to be very motivated to get your work done, to get round everybody, to give everyone the time they required, without burning out, because some people demanded a lot of time for not very much, but a lot of people were lonely. Even way before COVID, people lived on their own and were lonely. And sometimes they saw you, I think, more as a social interaction rather than someone doing a job. But it was all okay. It was good. And then I love having my own business because I get to choose my working environment, whether that's from home, whether I'm finding a space to work from, whether it's the stuff we do together, working together, whether it's networking, so I get to pick and choose where I put my energy now and how much time I require to recover, and be able to get back out there again. What about you?
I have been in various working environments in my lifetime. So my first job was a newspaper round, which, is great for the introvert, just out walking around the village, putting newspapers through doors, don't have to talk to anybody. Occasionally, if there's somebody, in their garden or whatever, you say hello, might do a tiny bit of small talk, but not an awful lot. Beyond that, my first job was in retail. And I was there for about a year, I think, and then I went into bar work. And not saying that introversion and shyness comes together, but I was very shy when I was younger. And I tell you, if there's anything going to knock it out of you, it's working behind a bar in a busy cocktail bar. So that was interesting. And actually, I've done bar work on and off since I was 18 until probably about my mid-20s, because it was always something that was easy to fall back on, always easy to get a bar job. There's always somebody needing staff. So that's always been like one that I've had in reserve, that if I needed it, that I'd go back to. I've worked in childcare settings, so from preschool playgroup, 2.5 to 3.5, up to like after school clubs with infants and junior school people, and then up to like out of school activity clubs for I think they were up to about 16-year-old, I think. So I've done a lot of childcare roles, a few different retail. So when I was working in London, I worked in Topshop on Oxford Circus. Oh my God.
My word.
That was exhausting.
That's a huge store.
I know.
It's massive.
And very busy. And even just before you get to work, because I lived out in Greenwich, just the route there, I mean, on the tube was fine. Nobody talks to each other anyway. But when you come out of the tube in Oxford Street, oh my God. I lasted 2 weeks there.
I have sat on many an occasion in a changing room in that Topshop while my daughter tried on numerous outfits. It's exhausting.
Mm,
Oh my word.
yes.
I have to say that, carry on. What else have you done?
I think that's pretty much it. I'm trying to think now. I think mostly it's been bar work, retail, and then childcare. And then obviously having my business for however many years. Well, this business I've not had that long, but the previous business. Um, and like you, like I like that being able to pick and choose where I work from, and like occasionally, it doesn't happen very often, I'd go and sit in a coffee shop and just have the buzz going on around me. Like I don't need to get involved in it, but having that kind of, I suppose, like the energy of others around you, because when you're working on your own in your business, it can get, you can kind of get bored of being in your own mind sometimes, like fed up of your own thoughts. So being out in somewhere where you don't necessarily have to talk to everybody or get involved in everything, but having that there's something going on around you can be quite beneficial. What were you going to say?
I'm going to say I recently took a visit to IKEA. Other home furnishing stores are available, but I just happened to go to the one near Warrington to buy cushions for the new sofa. And I hadn't gone round very far and I had a throbbing headache. And it was like, what is going on in this place? Obviously, no natural light. Could not imagine working without natural light. That's one thing for me. And what we noticed, that my daughter came with me, was how if there needed to be like online input from the employees, they did it on the shop floor. They had to basically, like a hot desk, they had to find a computer someone else wasn't using and do whatever they were going to do. Well, of course, in IKEA, there aren't that many people around to ask advice and help from. So the second someone, and I kid you not, the second someone in a yellow shirt stopped by a computer, someone was on them wanting advice. So were they able to get their job done and help the customer? I wonder. And my daughter made the comment that the older she's got, the more she's had to acknowledge her more introvert side when she's working. Now, she's done all sorts of jobs, especially in theatre, where you're in teams and you're expected to sort people out and show them where to go and everything. And the jobs that she's done whereby she has to focus on ordering and basically searching the web for stuff for props and things like that. She said the more she's done it, the more she realized how, for her, working on her own without interruption was the best way that she worked in that environment. And I just thought, yeah, I couldn't work in IKEA. Couldn't do it.
No.
Not unless it was like standing outside directing people to the front door or something, where I had daylight and fresh air, because it just felt more and more stale. Further into it we went. I could not wait to get out of the place, but I had a job to do. I knew I'd gone there for a purpose. I'd looked online and I thought, oh, I want so many individual pieces. It would be easier for my brain, for me, if I went there and I could see them laid out before me, which is great. You can do that there. It's a big store. There's plenty of space. It was busy, but not overly so. I've been there where you're literally like sardines in a can. That wasn't the case. We did have plenty of room to maneuver. The conveyor belts have changed since I was last there. I was trying to work out the last time I'd actually gone there, and it was years ago, probably for the reason that I don't like the space. I don't like the energy of the space. And I did come away thinking, never think, as a Swedish company, never think of Swedish people as being like the most extrovert people. Now, I've met one or two. I've been to Sweden. They're very pleasant. that they have their own way of doing things. I'm like, wouldn't Sweden, would they have it set out exactly like this? I'm thinking they probably do, because it's very much a model, isn't it? And whichever IKEA you go to, it's virtually the same. And I thought, gosh, can the Swedes work like this in an open space? There must be offices somewhere. Don't know where they are. They'll be behind a secret door, secret screen, without natural light. And maybe in Sweden, the Swedes have a different body language anyway, maybe. So you can work at a laptop computer on a desk. No one's going to bother you. They're just going to know that's what you're doing. That doesn't happen here. We want to know things. We ask questions like, where is this? Where is that? Where is the other? How do I order this? What do I do with that? And if you can't find the person that's going to give you those answers, any person who looks like they work at the store is the person. So, yeah, my daughter and I recognised how we couldn't work for IKEA. Not on the shop floor anyway. She'd love to work as a dresser for them, because they've got so many gorgeous things. Oh my goodness, so many amazing ideas in IKEA that I think have probably been copied sort of by other furniture companies. Yeah, no, couldn't work for IKEA. Sorry, IKEA, couldn't work on your shop. Love your products, not sure about the buildings, because they're like great big spaces, aren't they? Huge spaces that are then divided up to create the attempted atmosphere of showing you what a lounge or a kitchen or a bath. Do they do bathrooms? Not bathrooms, bedrooms look like, how you can dress them, how you can literally be IKEA-ized throughout your home. Don't mind that. I quite like a lot of the stuff that IKEA produce, very much so. But working without natural light, like any sort of, almost all windows had some sort of covering on them, and they weren't very big windows to start with. And it's just like, oof, no, wouldn't work for me at all. Just
it's that natural light, and I was going to say ventilation, but these places have ventilation, but it's not the sort I mean. Like you can open a window type thing.
No, you don't get that, and it was such a relief to go through the checkout and get outside into the car park, even though it was raining and there was a wind. It was like, oh, thank goodness, nature. This is much more natural.
When I worked in the Topshop, I worked in the basement, and it was that, like, in my mind it was like dark, but obviously they had the same lighting as they had on every other floor, but there was like no windows, no natural light, no fresh air coming in. And like, I remember at the end of a shift I'd like go up. In fact, I've got a feeling no, I might be making that up. I was going to say they might have had a couple of layers in the basement, but I might be making that up. It was a long time ago.
Well, they did have a section that was designer section. It wasn't the mainstream Topshop stuff that you found everywhere, and that tended to be where we headed, and it was always down. So there could have been like different levels to their basement, but I can't remember exactly. But yeah, Evie bought one or two really gorgeous things in that designer section, and that's where we always headed first, rather than for the general mainstream.
Yeah. I remember, like, at the end of a shift, I'd go up in the lift and like kind of make a break for the main door, and I'd be out like, oh, it's like, well, I would imagine if you've been underwater for a long time, not that it's something I do very often, and then you like break through the surface, like, oh, deep breath, even though, like, it's Oxford Street, it's full of traffic, but
yeah, but at least you can see the sky, can't you?
You're not inside anymore.
Yeah. So what sort of environment was working in? I've never worked in a pub. I've been in many. Had a drink or two in my time. What was that choice about for you?
And well, again, like you were saying, when I was younger, I didn't recognize myself as an introvert. And to be honest, now that I think about it, like I knew I was shy. Why did I want to work in a bar?
Yeah, well, I think that's what's going through my mind.
Oh, I couldn't tell you right now, other than like I just turned 18 and that was the job you could get in the area. But yeah, the first bar work job I had was well, it was a new cocktail bar opening actually. And so it was very busy. And I remember the first night being absolutely petrified. But then once I kind of got used to the rhythm of, how the behind the bar, how my area worked, and, like the tills and the mixing of the drinks and all of that kind of stuff, actually the interacting with the people was easy because it was so busy. You said hello to somebody, they gave you your order, you gave it back to them, you took some money. That was the interaction over. And then you just go on and do it to the next person. So there wasn't that. You didn't have to make small talk. You didn't have to have like full on conversations with people. It was, even though obviously people could see me, there was sort of like being behind the bar was kind of like a safe space, because also most of the time, thinking about the bar I was in then, because they were such small bar areas, you'd only have you and maybe one other person behind the bar with you. So you kind of had the space. It wasn't like, there was 5 members of staff behind there. What was interesting was when I later worked in a village pub, I found that trickier because people wanted to talk to you. And especially like if it was quiet, I'd take a book to read because I knew like certain shifts that I had, it would be quiet. So I'd take a book or, something to work on or anything. And I'd just be doing that. And people would come up and like, there's nobody else to talk to. So I'm going to talk to the bar staff. I'm like, okay.
The sort of archetypal portrayal of the person behind the bar, the man or woman, whoever, is the person you talk to.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. But then also what I realized is like I kind of got good at having an amount of conversation, and then there was something, oh, I just got to go and do such and such, or there was some task that I had to go and do. But it was interesting how, as the bar staff, this is the impression I got from however many years working in that environment. Like people would tell you their troubles, people would tell you what was going on, people would tell you the arguments they'd had with their wives, the drama that was going on in their lives, all of that kind of stuff. They didn't want opinion. They just wanted you to listen. And that was, I mean, it was fine. When I realized that, I was like, oh, okay. Like I could totally like put some perspective on this right now, but no, you just need to moan at me. That's fine.
Yeah, in a way that they couldn't moan to their other half, as it were. Well, not even their other half, their other person in their life. Yeah, I think I've never worked in them, but aware of them is like the open office working, where the noise must be horrendous. I just can't imagine doing that at all. How does an introvert think straight in an open office with so much going on? Especially perhaps, maybe not so much these days. You don't get phones ringing anymore, do you? That doesn't happen. But that sense of you don't have your own space in which to manage what it is you have to do for the day, the number of people, but I don't know what you're going to be doing in an office space, because I've never done office work. But I know for myself that without some sort of enclosure, I would have been overwhelmed. I really would. This thing, when you say, I go off what I see on the telly. I don't know how real it is. I don't know how it's made up for the telly, but it's got to have come from somewhere, where you can literally see from one end of a huge room to another. Even in old films, very American format, to have like people at one time, just like in a schoolroom, a table behind a table behind a table behind a table, and everyone's doing their job. Now
The
they might
typing pool.
it's what
The typing pool.
yeah, where they might not necessarily be talking to each other, but the noise that must be going on, because you can't do jobs like that quietly. If you're, say, I don't know, working where you're in a call center, maybe, so you've got to talk to people, you're going to hear all of that, aren't you? It's just going to be going on around you all the time. Yeah, I can't imagine doing that. I don't want to talk for that long to anyone. I certainly don't want it day in, day out as my job.
No, I've never worked in that sort of environment. And the only experience I have of it, from what I can, like, off the top of my head, is I think it was when I was 17, and I was going to the job centre in town, and I had my job advisor. That's probably not his title. But it was like just desks, in the room. I don't know how many desks, but quite close together. I'd be having this conversation with this advisor, and just something, don't know what in particular, but something would just catch your ear from like a neighboring conversation. Then you just like completely lost train of thought. Like I can be mid sentence and like, nope, I've gone.
Yeah.
So that's the only experience I've had of that. But even just from that couple of visits that I went there, like I could tell, like, nope, not for me to be in this sort of environment. And I think I knew, for like, maybe not to articulate it, but I think I knew somewhere inside that office work wouldn't be for me. Not for the type of work, but just for the environment more than anything.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it wouldn't have worked for me either. Where else? What other types of work is there? I think now we have it. We didn't have it years ago. I had to be a very good Amazon delivery person. There are other companies available. Big van, all to yourself, driving around, just going from A to B, getting your job done. Knock on a door, leave a parcel, drive off again. Sounds bliss to me. That sounds great.
I tell you what, they don't even knock on the door around here lately.
Yeah, I know.
They just toot their horn.
Yeah. I know. I think at the moment that because you live in Wales, I'm down the road in Chester. It's very bizarre that Wales has got this new traffic system going on, and this is a recording, but today I was driving from Chester to Wales. It takes like 10 minutes by car to cross the border, an invisible line, and there was a white van behind me, delivery van, and not understanding why I was going so slowly on a Welsh road when he clearly had a job to do, and I was holding him up. And I also noticed that there was a bus going along, and I thought, that's not doing the speed limit. And it's like, how, now that the speed limit has been dropped, how can they keep to their timetable? And that's another job. I wonder whether I'd have enjoyed being a bus driver. Letting people on, letting people off. You don't have to have much conversation with them, do you?
Well, I tell you, what's just come into my head when you're saying that, in our village, when we were younger, they don't do it anymore, is all like I think it's pretty much what's it called? Arriva. They do all of our buses now. But it used to be a local company that just did our, the village into the town and back again route. And guaranteed, every time I was on the bus, there'd be somebody standing at the front talking to the driver. I'm like, oh, that's annoying. He's just there driving his bus, just doing his thing, taking the money, letting people off, and you're just there yabbering at him.
Well, they might have known each other. That is a thing. Yeah, I was before we came on to record this, I was thinking about all the people that have partners that they work with, and perhaps aren't sure how introvert or extrovert they are, or their partners. I'm thinking people like paramedics, they tend to work in pairs, or like you see on the telly, the police have their partner. And it's like, I wonder if people don't get on, whether it's because one's too extrovert or one's too introvert. And so, but there isn't an understanding of what the other needs. Like the introvert doesn't want to talk about everything, but might want to talk about something, but not all the time. Whereas can an extrovert really be quiet? And I just find myself wondering about people being together in an enclosed space, and are you going to talk all the time, or are you going to have space just to be quiet? I don't know. It'd be interesting if there's anyone listening who would like to in on that would be great.
But could you imagine though being stuck in like a police car like that, confined to space, with somebody who won't stop talking?
Yeah, I can. Yes, I can. Oh, it's not even that. It's like I've said before, my husband's way more extrovert than me. Being in a confined car space with him on a long journey, he has to have a sound. Even if it's not conversation, there is the radio on in the background all the time. And he's not even listening. It's just on. It's just there. A noise. And he says to me, you like radio too, don't you? Not particularly. I'll put that on for you, but I don't want it on. I'm not bothered. And it's just like, oh no, he can't do quiet. He doesn't do quiet at all.
But he's doing it for you, Denise.
It's not necessary. Really not necessary. Yeah. So yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? The working environment. I wonder what other working environments there are. I remember watching a program. I can't remember their names. The guy's a wildlife photographer, and his wife was a Blue Peter presenter. They live in a beautiful cottage in the country with a stream nearby, and he goes off on his own for hours waiting for that shot. You're an introvert, mate. The wife, oh God, what's her name? I can see her. Ex-Blue Peter. I think they have 3 or 4 boys. And not an introvert. Absolutely not an introvert. Could talk. I mean, he can talk, but very specifically, she can talk about anything. Anything.
Thinking about like other working environments just made me think of, so every year for my birthday, my mum books me on a craft workshop. Like I've done all sorts of things. So one I went on was a blacksmithing workshop, and it was in British Ironworks down towards Oswestry. And he's just got like one of the little outbuildings, and he's got his little blacksmith place in there. And he works on his own, other than when he's teaching like the workshops, which then he only has 1 or 2 people because of the size of the space and, the health and safety, all of that kind of stuff. I'm like, that'd be great, wouldn't it? Like you can just have your own space until people aren't just going to pop in on you unexpected. When people are coming, and then they can go off again.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think I'm all for teamwork. I think teamwork is essential to have a communication with people. Say it is an office or something. But what I've only recognized later in life, because this talk of introverts and extroverts wasn't a thing really, is that whole thing of, my daughter-in-law works for a company where they work remotely most of the time. She goes down to London for meetings, but they have to do what's it called? The team, where they all gather together and go on hikes and
building.
Team building, that's the one. So like, no. No, not with lots of people, no. She talks about what they do and the hours that they're together, long hours. There's something that they're doing throughout the day, and going out to eat together, and then going to karaoke bars together. And she said it got too much.
Yeah,
it got way too much. She said there are times, she's very extrovert, but she said even I need to switch off the noise. I can't do it like I used to. So perhaps one recognises as we get older, just that we don't want to be like mega party animals all the time. And even if that equals for your job and team building and hiking up mountains, or I think, what were they doing? Hiking up mountains, or you could jump off a cliff into water. Great.
No thanks. I'll hike up a mountain, but I don't want to jump off a cliff. Thank you.
What else were they doing? Oh, there was all sorts of things they could go off and do. But then it's when you got back and you were expected to be around your teammates for every meal. Like, I don't see my family that often. I'm not sure I would want to be around my work colleagues that often.
Yeah. There was that retreat, wasn't there, that you and I and another friend went on. Gosh, when was that? 2019? Anyway, pre-COVID. That was like an extended period of time with 2 nights, 3 days sorts of thing. And in this company of the same people, like I was going to say morning till night, but we all slept in the same pod as well, so it was like all the time. And I think, and I noticed like each of us at some point throughout each day would like just go off for a wander. Like, I just need to not be here right now.
I'll be down by the river. Don't disturb me.
And that's with like people like we were friends, us still are friends, and we went there, together. And the person who was running it was also a friend. So that's like not even with like colleagues that you like maybe don't get on with that well. We were all friends, and still it's like it's a lot of time to be with people, isn't it? Like non-stop.
Yeah. And being nice all the time.
Yeah.
Not that there was anything not to be nice about, but it's I think there are times when introverts get grumpy when they've not had their recharge time, when we haven't plugged ourselves into quietness. I can get quite resentful if I don't get my time. And it's like, it's not bothering anybody else, so I have to work out how I'm going to get that time. Like just come back from 2 weeks holiday with all the family and the dog. Thankfully, the flat was big enough, and St. Ives, where we were, is big enough that we could take ourselves off and do our own thing. And I did. I took full advantage. So I came back feeling actually quite recuperated and slow. It's taken me ages to sort of grind myself back up again to interacting with people in any great shakes. But it was a good holiday. It's good. Any other working environments? What about being on a submarine? Can you imagine?
Oh, do you know what? It's sort of similar, but not like my worst nightmare, I've always said, is like being on a party boat. Like not necessarily working, although that would also be horrible, but like just in any way, shape, or form on a party boat.
Yeah, no.
Because there's no way of escape.
No.
They used to go up and down the Thames by the flat where we lived, and you'd hear them like, I was going to say in the middle of the night. It wouldn't have been that late, but in the dark, you'd hear them going past and like, oh, shudder.
Yeah, well, we've got them on the river here, on the River Dee. They're party boats, but they don't go out for very long. It's not like the Ibiza scene or anything like that. I was going to say something else. Back to the submarine. I cannot imagine being in such close quarters.
Talk about no natural light or fresh air.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure who is the sort of person that voluntarily seeks employment like that. What sort of person are they? It could work for introverts in some ways, couldn't it? But yeah, it wouldn't work for me. I also think, because I've done a few cruises now, and I know myself so much better now, and I know how to go and find my own space within hundreds to thousands of people on these huge cruises. And the great thing about a cruise is you go and see a lot of places, and that just like takes a load of them off. And if you particularly like one, then book a holiday in that space. And the number of staff on them is there's like, it's almost like 1-to-1, because they keep the thing afloat 24/7, obviously. Yeah, there was one time, I can't remember, it was like going Northern Europe, and it was raining and everyone was inside but didn't want to be in their cabins. There wasn't a spare seat inside the boat. So, oh, there's nowhere quiet today. What am I going to do? To the point that people were sat on the stairs inside the ship because you couldn't get, it was just too wet and windy to go outside and sit outside. Whereas normally when the weather's nice, there's always somewhere quiet, a little quiet alcove, so you can get your alone time and just stare out to sea. That's lovely. That is nice. That sense of being afloat with nature and, yeah, sort of close to the sea and the sky and everything. That's nice. But again, you know, on a big cruise, there's something for everyone. The extroverts are playing the games in and out of the pool or whatever's available on the decks of the ship. And the introverts can find the quiet reading room and the games room and that sort of thing. And there's usually decks where there's only like 3 or 4 sun lounges. So again, you've got quiet spaces. The noisy places are around the bars, around the pool. So you can go and do that if that works for you. So quite a fan of a cruise, to be honest. Done a few of them. What else is there? Where else do people work? Places that we might never have thought of as working environments.
Well, something that's just come into my head, and going back to what we were talking about, offices. So I've got a friend she's up in Scotland, very corporate-y world business that she works in. And I was talking to her a couple of months ago, and she was actually saying, like, obviously the stuff we've been talking about online and stuff about introverts and their strengths and their, you know, skills that come innately as an introvert. And she was saying, actually, yeah, more needs to be said about this, because she's like a team leader, a supervisor, or, you know, one of those sorts of people. And she was saying she's got people on her team who there's the experts who will be quick to jump in with like words, you know, whether they're relevant words or, you know, useful words. They just need to jump in with words. And she was like, we've also got the quieter people who she now recognizes are like the more introverted people who will do the listening, but then when they talk, you know, they've got something considered to say. And she was saying actually what she's seen of what we've been sharing online has helped her to not pay more attention to the more introverted people in her team, but to like be more aware of them and actually approaching them and working with them, and like in a meeting setting or whatever, inviting them in a way that works for them, not necessarily like, I don't know, if you're in a meeting like, who's got any ideas, you know, they're not necessarily going to be the ones that are going to put their hand up or, you know, speak out. And I thought that was interesting, that like my friend is not, I wouldn't call her an introvert. I think I'd say maybe she's like somewhere in the middle. And yeah, it was just interesting that what we had been talking about and what she's seen that we've shared online and been talking about introverts and all that kind of stuff has then made her approach how she approaches her team members differently. Does that sentence make sense? I don't think it did, but you know what I'm trying to say.
I do get what you're saying, and I think it's that rather than seeing the quiet people as shy and lacking in confidence, it's asking yourself, are these people the introverts, the ones who are really listening, who are really considering what it is that you're looking for in terms of asking a question and looking for an idea or an answer, a solution. And if you allow them their time, they will give you things. They're just never going to be the first to open their mouths. And it's the same as in school. I remember being in school and being targeted by certain teachers because I was happy to listen. And I wasn't the first to shoot my hand up. I wasn't the first to open my mouth. And then when I recognised that actually that's what teachers seem to want from you and that's how you're expected to behave. There's another working environment, teaching, blimey. Cool, blimey. Then I tried to do it, but it never, I always felt I wasn't being, what I know now was the inner sensations I was experiencing, I think has led me in my 30s, 40s to the imposter syndrome because I doubted myself because I wasn't being true to me. I was trying to be an extrovert in an extrovert world when I'm not. And so it's like that set up the me self-judging. And it just grew and grew as time went on because you just in every profession at the time, you know, I'm not saying you needed to be loud and outgoing, but you certainly needed, it was expected that you would jump in rather than not. And yet half the population is thought to be introvert, half is thought to be extrovert. Why are we trying to live and work always as extroverts? It's like, you know, we have to start recognizing what works for us as individuals. And it's not to say that, like, my eldest son is very introverted, very more so than I am, and he works in retail, but he knows he needs quite a long walk home from where he works to where he lives just to decompress. There are days when at work it's so quiet, but he's the one who's happily standing around going through his own thoughts, whereas someone else is climbing the walls because there is no new people to talk to. And it's not like he can't talk to people. He's actually very good at small talk, or he calls it pleasantries. He's like, no, pleasantries are important, Mum. Puts people at their ease. I went, okay, cool. He's learned that, not from me. So his working environment in retail, he does get quite a good balance for him. And he enjoys his job and he doesn't aspire to be like a team leader or anything like that. He likes where he is. He does go and help out with other stores. He's worked for the same company for years now, and they're expanding in this country. And so because he knows the lay of the land, he gets asked to go and oversee the opening of these stores. Some of them he can travel to, others they have to put him up. Loves to be put up in a hotel or something because he gets a room to himself, doesn't have to do anything, you know, gets fed and all of that sort of thing. And it's, you know, he's quite happy at the moment in that space. He would have been a good writer, for instance. He's very good at spending time on his own, reads a lot of books, and I think at some point in his life he will start he'll start writing about something. I'm not sure what it is yet, and I don't think he is, which is why he's not attempted it. But he's very much the most introverted of my grown-up children, very much so.
So, shall we put a pause there and invite our listeners. We've talked about our working environment experience. We've talked about what we think it might be like to work in other environments. So yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts and stories about working environments you have been in. If you're an introvert and you love office life, let us know.
Yeah, how do you make it work for you? I think that's the thing. You can identify as an introvert and be working, living, working, playing even in an extrovert world. How do you make it work for you? I think that's what I'd be interested in knowing.
Yes, do leave a comment below. I was going to say in the comments, but then obviously, where else would you leave them? So, Denise, are we done?
Are we done?
I think we're done.
Yeah, I think you wrapped that up very neatly. I like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we're done, aren't we?
We are. So, thank you everybody for listening. A little reminder that you've been listening to Talking to Introverts with myself, Sami Blackford, and my co-host and co-introvert, drumroll,
Denise Oliver. Thank you, everyone. Introvert, extrovert, whoever's listening out there. We really appreciate each and every one of you, your energy, your comments. And if you have a topic that you would like us to consider in the future, then let us know. And we'll be back very soon to a podcast channel somewhere near you. Say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.